Hello, everyone. This is Rosie Talaga with Beckers Healthcare. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Solving Healthcare's Talent Crisis, Strategies to Unlock Capacity and Drive Sustainable Growth. Before we begin, I'll walk us through a few quick housekeeping instructions. We'll begin today's webinar with a presentation, and we will have time at the end of the hour for a question and answer session. You can submit any questions you have throughout the webinar by typing them into the Q&A box that you see on your screen. Today's session is being recorded and it will be available after the event. You can use the same link that you used to log into today's webinar to access the recording later. If at any time you have issues with audio or visuals, please try refreshing your browser. You can also submit any technical questions into the Q&A box. We're here to help. With that, I'm pleased to introduce today's speakers, Laura Beath, award-winning national HR talent executive with in-depth experience in workforce development, talent management, and talent acquisition. Laura Beath is a visionary leader with 25 plus years of experience holding healthcare system executive positions in talent acquisition, talent management, academics, and workforce development. She's currently serving as the Chief Workforce Officer for Futuro Health, and in this role, Laura is leading healthcare employer and stakeholder relationships, employer workforce solutions, scholar placements, grants, and philanthropy. She's led healthcare anchor mission employment commitments such as outside in local hiring and inside up career pathways, and she was part of a small national team who developed the HAN Workforce Impact Commitment. From 2014 to 2024, Laura served as the appointed board chair of the Minnesota Governor's Workforce Development Board, and she previously served as a business representative on the Governor's Workforce Development Council. In addition, Laura completed a 25-year term as the state chair of the Minnesota State Healthcare Education Industry Partnership Council and Healthforce Minnesota. She is the past chair of the Minneapolis Workforce Investment Board and past elected chair and officer of the National Governors Association of State Workforce Board Chairs. Laura has been nationally recognized for her leadership in workforce development, including 2 invitations to the White House and multiple awards given by the Hospital Association, National Fund for Workforce Solutions and Career Staff, Development Workforce Systems, and the college and university systems. Thank you, Laura, for being here. And our other speaker today is Carl Anderson, Executive Director of Partnership Success, Unitech Learning. Carl Anderson is a results-driven leader with more than 15 years of experience in education and clinical practice. As Director of Partnership Success at Unitech Learning, he collaborates with healthcare systems and strategic partners to design and deliver workforce solutions that align education with real-time hospital needs. He began his career as an occupational therapist with organizations including the Livestrong Foundation, MD Anderson Cancer Center, and the University of Minnesota Medical Center. These experiences gave him firsthand insight into the critical importance of aligning academic preparation with healthcare workforce demands. At Unitech Learning, Anderson leads several key partnerships, including the groundbreaking initiative with Futuro Health. This program has prepared more than 1,000 allied health professionals with the skills and credentials required to meet growing workforce demands while improving patient care and community health outcomes. Anderson earned a bachelor's degree in exercise physiology and a master's degree in occupational therapy from Concordia University in Wisconsin. Thank you so much, Laura and Carl, for being here today. And I will now turn the floor over to Laura to get us started.
That's wonderful. And I first of all want to just thank Beckers Healthcare for inviting us to speak on this important topic, and also the fact that I get to work with Carl Anderson from Unitech Learning. This is my favorite subject, and it's what I've been passionate about my whole career, is helping people succeed and helping employers get the talent they need. So just want to make sure Carl can say hi, and then we'll go into the agenda.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Laura. Yeah, again, it's a pleasure being here with you all. Big thank you to Beckers Healthcare for having both of us on today. And it's truly an honor to be here with Laura from Futuro Health. She's been a pleasure, along with her team, working with them to grow these workforce initiatives, created some groundbreaking, really exciting programming, and we're excited to talk about those today. So for our agenda, we'll cover Futuro Health's work and the solution that they're currently building alongside their educational partners, and then what is working in workforce and how to build a workforce solution for yourself. And then are there any lessons learned outside of allied health that we can discuss? And then framing workforce as a strategic initiative, and then we'll follow that with a question and answer.
Well, I just want to share a few stats right now. First of all, we know that there's hundreds of leaders on the phone because this topic is so critical to really address short, mid, and long-term workforce strategies. And our challenges in allied health and allied adjacent roles are massive right now to fill critical shortages with aging population, people that exited, people that need support to move into critical roles. And so our mission at Futura Health, I couldn't be prouder, is to improve the health and wealth of the communities by growing the largest network of healthcare in the nation. And how we do that is we work with employers on supply and demand. We source untapped talent. So we're bringing in new people that you might not be thinking about or having opportunities to work with, bringing them into healthcare. We put those scholars into kind of the center of our universe to support them through technical training programs, grounding them in all the skills they need to be a great healthcare worker. We call that human touch healthcare, centered on just making sure not only you have a skilled technical employee, but one that really understands the human elements to really comfort patients, be there as a good partner. And then we also work alongside our partners like Unitech and our employers, because you can't do this alone. And so we make sure we're understanding the labor market. We want to have the voice of the employers on what critical areas they need to have healthcare workers in. And then really working alongside educators to make sure that we're delivering quality programs and providing work-ready scholars to take on jobs. And they all not only have the technical training, but the fundamental skills to really be a good employee, one that is compassionate, one that works as a team, one that shows empathy, compassion, can communicate well, and then is really cultural competent as well. And so we do that also with making sure that we can support the scholars through their journey by, whenever possible, funding opportunities. So Futura Health has been granted funds to source untapped talent and then pay for coaches for individuals as well as the technical training so they can concentrate on school. This brings in more people into the field, people that couldn't afford to pay for healthcare, people that needed flexible programs. And so funding is key for us to make sure that we can bring more people into the healthcare market. And then just making sure, again, that we are looking at who are we serving as healthcare employers. What is your demographics of the communities you're serving, and making sure that we mirror that patient population with employee population. So you can see our results. In the last 5 years, 90% of the people that we brought in were people from diverse backgrounds. About half of them are bilingual. So not only are they fluent in English, but another language that can help your systems. And then our average age, we have second career changers coming in that are really motivated to be in healthcare. This was their dream. They couldn't start out in healthcare, but they're really invested, and it's changing their lives. It's really creating positive outcomes for our scholars and get good jobs, and also for their families.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would piggyback on that a little bit. I will say the students and scholars we receive from Futura Health are amazing. The prep that they do with their coaching team to get them into human touch healthcare, to give them some of those basic skills to come into our academic programming is it's top notch. We really appreciate the support they provide before coming over to us. And as you're going to mention at the intro, we've had over 1,300 MAs come through our programming from Futura Health since the beginning of 2021. And with that, we've had over 270 this year alone, year to date, with more to come. It's just been phenomenal. And they're debt free. I mean, you can't ask for more than that. As an occupational therapist in my background, I miss patient care. I miss going to the bedside and treating these patients and clients in many different settings. And the work that we get to do to work alongside Futura Health, to work alongside our other partners across the healthcare community is bar none, life-changing. Not just for myself, it's very meaningful, purposeful for the work that we can do to prep our staff and our teams, but then try to go and change some of these communities is phenomenal. We're creating accessibility. When you look at Unitech as a whole, 42% of our students are first generation college learners. It's incredible when you look at, I mean, approaching 50% of our students have never been to college in their family. Building these programs they're designed for the working adult. So not just flexible in format or just being available at all times of the day, but really helps with the whole ecosystem of the hospital system or the healthcare setting to be supportive of the student. And it's really not only changing our healthcare system throughout, because we're providing that pipeline of workforce inside of their institution, but we're really changing communities based on these stats that you see right here are essentially speaking for themselves.
Just echo what Carl is saying. I want to assure you that every education program is vetted for the rigor, for accreditation, for graduation rates, for making sure that there's retention and placement and satisfaction. And working with Carl and team, as he mentioned, we've had thousands of people that have gone through education programs that are accredited with Unitech. At the same time, we provide a fundamental course ahead of time to prep them to make sure that they're ready to go into those technical training programs. If people need ELL, we provide that ahead of time as well. And then the first day we work with a scholar, they're assigned a coach. And there's different coaches along the journey to make sure that we can attend to any questions that come up or any barriers, because our goal together is success, to make sure these scholars graduate and get great jobs. And so I just want to assure you all that our partners are the best as far as accreditation, but they're also flexible. We're meeting the local residents or scholars where they're at. Not everyone can go to a bricks and mortar school. We do have those partners. We have 200 different partners. But a lot of the scholars we're serving, that's not always going to fit for them. And so we make sure that we have these flexible programs so they can go to school that meets their time, if they're working, if they're taking care of their family, and so on. So it's been a good marriage to come together and produce, like I said, quality graduates that are work ready.
Yeah, I agree. I really love the fact that we can use technology and data to drive a lot of our decisions and relationship too. But when it really comes down to it, it's that white glove kind of best in class service that we both can provide to our students. We have dedicated student services and career services on our side. We meet weekly, and if there's any challenges or issues, Futuro is the first person that we hear about, that hears about it. And their coaches don't just, hey, here's a student, enroll in your program, bye, see you later. It's, hey, we're in this partnership together through graduation, through job placement, and they're willing to support our teams. So it's very, very complementary services to make sure that we have the best in class outcomes.
I would say it's our secret sauce, because when you have a good partner and you both bring your best services forward, for us, like I said, we really give attention and put the scholar at the center of our universe, and then right next to them as employers, because we want to deliver on that promise. But providing that extra scholar support, providing any, like I said, the fundamental skills ahead of time, the ELL ahead of time if needed. And the coaches change based on, is it the enrollment process? Are they learning the fundamentals in healthcare? A clinician is teaching that part. And then there's different coaches along the way, whether they're in their experiential learning or externship, or at the end, if they need career coaching to land a job. And our services for alumni are here forever. Our goal is that they're in a good job, and this is the first step, and that they continue to grow and develop and have retention at the employers we're working with. And so I'll just talk a little bit about healthcare education is expensive, and there are opportunities out there that students may be able to get some grants in that, but we have seen that when we provide the education expense, the tuition coverage, and all that scholar support, it makes a huge difference. To know that in 5 years, we've graduated well over 12,000 frontline workers in allied health positions, that wouldn't be possible if they didn't have that tuition support, that flexible program, if they didn't have, removing some of the barriers along the way. And so we try to remove that concern right away, because in healthcare, we've got to bring in more people than are currently finding us in normal recruiting functions. We have to look for where people are not finding us. And so that's where we look at sometimes zip codes where we see that there's a need. Like I would speak to anchor institutions, social determinants of health. Are there people that aren't working? Are there people in low income jobs? Are there people that need education? And so we are really good at sourcing and going through geo-marketing to find people that they're waiting for this opportunity. The number of testimonials are unbelievable with how we've changed lives and the lives of their families. And what I can tell you from decades of experience, and I've had accountability for short-term recruiting. So you think of contingent workforce, temps, travelers, per diems, paying overtime, regular recruitment where you're bringing people in, and then more of the, partnerships with colleges and universities, community partners, starting students and a longer onboarding, and also just all the earn and learn programs. What the one common denominator has always been that when we invest in people, when we care, when it's not just a transaction, these individuals are loyal. My history has been that over 95% of the people stay and stay with that employer. They feel that they're part of something bigger than themselves. And it also, at the same time, is, I would say, we're looking at employers and saying, what aren't you able to do right now with your current workforce? Are you delaying appointments? Are you delaying services? Are you not able to do surgeries? When you invest and have this pipeline going, more of a longer term strategy along with your short term recruitment, then you can focus on both. You can start making room to grow, to retain people. Individuals want to be developed. And so these have been just kind of magic moments for individuals, and they're the ones that are your ambassadors. They turn into ambassadors for Futura Health. They turn into ambassadors for Unitech Learning, for the employers, because they landed in a job they're proud of and they're using these skills that they never had the opportunity to acquire.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, Laura, when you look at the funding that you guys can help provide, it, again, big deal for a lot of these individuals. Yeah. And there's some of the data where it says nationwide, only 20% of employees feel that their employee invests in their long-term success. So, I mean, when you look at that, there's 80% of people out there that think that they aren't being, invested in. And so when you look at that culture and kind of strengthening staff loyalty, I think that becomes a really big piece of how do you make sure that they stay with you, and the retention that you just shared is pretty incredible.
Well, I think it's a both strategy. I think that employers need to keep doing the short-term work they're doing, but also saying, if I spent part of the money I spent on premium pay, part of the money I spent on temps or travelers, bringing people in and supporting them, or looking at your incumbent workforce. Who can you help upskill to fill critical roles? If they're doing a great job in an entry-level role that may not be clinical, are they someone that can really move up with working together and promoting them with this opportunity? Futura Health, we do have programs across the country that are grant funded and all the costs are covered. And then there's other opportunities where if it's not covered by a grant, we can do fee for service. We can look at strategies and workforce opportunities to come together and bundle and help you solve your workforce challenges, because we've got years and lots of testimonials and statistics that show this is working as we invest in people and move into critical roles. It's, they are the ones that are staying. They are the ones that mirror the patient population. And they're also the ones that come to work enthusiastically and want to really make a difference.
Yeah. I think on top of that too, some of the traveler piece, like what percentage are travelers? What are you paying the premiums for? Really looking at where should your healthcare staff come from in the next 5 years to really look at that supply data when you're, turnover, retirements, growth, promotions out of the field, really finding that real gap, by role, by unit, by year, is really important. I think a couple other things like clinical to hire, what percentage of your current existing academic partners in your institution are having clinical to hire? It's a really important metric to talk about. And what percent is coming from your own internal pipeline that are upskilling themselves to fill those job roles?
Yeah, and I'll just kind of piggyback on what Carl's saying, because having been in roles where I've had full accountability for all of talent strategies, we would look at all the mechanisms to bring talent in. Our job fairs working, our temp conversions working, our student placement to conversion to hire working, our earn and learns working. And at the same time, looking at your mix of everyone needing to work at the top of their license. Frontline workers play a key role. So your RNs and clinical staff can focus on the areas that they need to. I also want to say, as a lot of the large systems are anchor institutions, which they focus on health of the community. And a lot of that health is, sure, it's going to be health care, but the other is making sure that there's economic development going on, investing in local hires and career development, investing in education. And what I've seen is just making sure, we can align on that with anchor institution work of, it's not, you think of how to keep people healthy. Well, of course, there's vaccines and there's, making sure that there's healthy food, but having education allows someone to get a job and live in a good neighborhood, a good, safe place. So this is the way that we can make our communities stronger and healthier by providing education and employment opportunities. And that's just a major win for your health system, your clinic, your long-term care facility. And it brings pride for people at work. So I would say I would be looking at, all those stats. What are your retention rates look like? What are your vacancy rates? How long is it taking to fill critical areas? When might it make sense to invest in longer term programs so we could get more people in that pipeline? Who's ready to be moved up as an incumbent worker? As you look at, what are those wages when you're moving people up? Can you see more patients? We offer like surge tech programs, and again, not having enough surge techs, you can't keep those operating rooms open. Nursing assistant programs, medical assistant programs, and it keeps people that doing their jobs when you fill the frontline worker roles as well. And so I would say when I'm working with employers, we discuss kind of, looking at the whole analysis of what's the true cost of your talent? Are you outsourcing? Are you paying that, like I said, the premium pay? Are you having to constantly rehire, hire positions because people are leaving as fast as they come in? What's missing? A lot of the times employers are saying, they provide tuition reimbursement, but it's turned out that because of challenges in systems, they've lost some of the infrastructure to support people to go back to school. So then they drop out. Sometimes it's not enough just to have tuition reimbursement or tuition assistance. You need that coaching, you need that mentoring. You need to have kind of that whole big picture of what's going on. And that's been a kind of a key theme when I've worked with large systems is sometimes their whole talent function is outsourced. And so having this type of in-depth program with infrastructure in place is invaluable to bring talent into their organization, especially at a time when they might not be able to hire individuals that can, follow and coach and mentor as much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think in that license, kind of talking about top of practice and working at the top of their license, make sure that helps with staff retention. And when you look at staff retention, like nursing, for an example, if you had the average retention cost savings over one cohort of 25 nursing students that came and work at your institution, it's almost $1.9 million saved by educating them in your system and retaining them and keeping them part of your organization. So it's huge cost savings too. And then looking at that whole life cycle of, the allied health need, the MAs, the surge techs, some of our programming, we have CNAs, other techs, case managers, HR, recruitment folks that are coming back into healthcare at their institution to work and learn there. A couple examples for like MAs and how you can create a sustainable pipeline. In 24 and 25, we've had with our partners 459 BSN students. 20% of those were MAs. That's a very high volume. So when you look at integrating into healthcare institution of, creating that allied health pipeline, they may become your future nurses. Keep that continual pipeline, and they're going to stick with you and stay with you for not only just the dollar savings, but just increased patient satisfaction and outcomes throughout your system.
The other thing I'll bring up is a theme that we always hear is wanting graduates to be work ready, scholars to be work ready, because healthcare organizations might have fewer workers right now. They're short-staffed themselves. They might be managing new employees and temp employees and students and just their own workload. So it's really hard to kind of balance both short and long term. What we've seen is as we partner together and we advance, whether it's incumbents or our scholars partnering with you on the clinical externship with any kind of connection along the way, let's say red carpet to hire, typically that can reduce onboarding costs of a new employee by 50% because they are getting used to your organization. They are hearing more about the culture. They're learning from people on the units and floors, and they're more work ready. The other thing we do at Futura Health is we have micro-credentials. So as Carl mentioned, medical assistant is one of our key programs, both for Unitech Learning and for Futura Health. Great needs. We've graduated thousands and thousands of medical assistants. But if you say, well, we want that medical assistant to work in oncology or in dermatology, we can add on a micro-credential to prepare them for that specialty area. And so that takes away the time on your onboarding. And so we can tack that on to the accredited medical assisting program and have that as a kind of a deep dive into the learning before they start as well. That's something that we've been doing. The other thing I just want to mention, and Carl brought this up too, with nursing assistant, my long history of running nursing assistant programs, because I've run registered apprenticeship programs, I've done a number of earn and learns. For a nursing assistant, years ago, it would only take like a week to get that ROI because the amount you're paying, and by the time that they start work, they're taking on those patients you couldn't see before, or they're doing the work that a nurse had to do when you didn't fill that role. And so there's a lot of strategy with looking at how to look at your whole workforce plan. And definitely the long-term part of workforce planning needs to be addressed, not just the short-term, because otherwise you're going to be in a constant cycle. And actually it's predicted to be even more challenging. So if, strategizing both on the short-term and long-term is critical.
Mm-hmm.
And so the future, we're looking at the future of healthcare. Well, we see that AI is going to certainly help. But we also know that when you're dealing with patients, I mean, we're taking advantage of all AI with everything we do to get us partway there and to get our scholars prepared. But we also don't want to forget that human interaction. That human interaction is the difference on your patient satisfaction scores, on people wanting to return to you, feeling cared about. So to have them be more aligned with your culture, we really do a lot of deep dive work and clinical work with our clinicians that teach a course on cultural competence, another course on ethics and integrity, how people show up at work, teamwork, how important that is, emotional intelligence, effective communications, and empathy and compassion. So again, AI is helping us with all the learning, helping prepare people, but that allows them, then the workers, your healthcare employees, to be more, use that time to work with patients, to work with each other. And so I see it as a win, but I also see it gives us the time to make sure that patients are heard and feel cared for. And so I would just say that that's what one of the differentiators of working with us is we take the time to work on those human skills because they're just as important as the technical training too. We just want to make sure we produce a well-rounded scholar that's work ready.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think kind of with looking at the future of healthcare and kind of looking at nursing as an example too. One thing we have done with Futuro Health, I know we spoke more about allied health and medical assisting. We've also had Futuro scholars that have come to our Unitech College brand that went into vocational nursing with us. And we have just had our last graduate recently. We had a 92% graduation rate, and they're all prepping for the NCLEX exam right now. So we're super proud of that initiative. Also, looking at adding some additional vocational nurses in California in 2026 with Futuro Health as well. And inside of that, you know, some of the future of healthcare, looking at, with Unitech, we call it School in the Box. You know, Futuro Health, you know, working with them very closely and Laura's team, you know, they're looking at, you know, having MA in 50 states across the country. And Unitech would love to be a part of that as much as possible. They have other really amazing educational providers too, and I hope they can expand across the country with Futuro also, because there's enough need out there for all of us. We are all here to support the need of the healthcare institutions and the patients that aren't getting the quality care that they aren't receiving right now. We just want to continue to improve that. And with our kind of School in the Box program, it's essentially an embedded learning center inside of your hospital or healthcare institution. So for medical assisting, we could go anywhere in Missouri and put our MA programming there. We follow all the regulatory, obtain all the regulatory approvals. We have, you know, Futuro Health as an example as a partner. We find that healthcare institution that needs MAs, and we can run our School in the Box essentially anywhere where these people are working, so they can learn where they work, and then you continue them on inside of your institution. And then
these solutions, I would say the solutions you're referencing, Carl, work for both urban and rural settings.
Yeah.
I know that it's really nice to have cohorts sometimes with employees or scholars for health employers. And in rural, we really need to keep everyone in that community and develop them. And having hybrid options are really powerful. And it helps keep critical health access hospitals open, long-term care facilities open, and people that are in long-term care, this is a great opportunity as well to really keep the people you have by developing them with these earn and learn opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, nationally, it's, there's 75% of employees want to pursue more education, but only 54% of them actually have access. And then of those 50%, 40% only use their tuition benefits. So there's a lack of employees actually using tuition benefits that are available to them. But kind of hearing that gap of, 54% not having access, I mean, that's really why we developed School in the Box. So you can serve the rural community or those locations that don't have an educational provider, or they could have caps or waiting lists. We're there to help provide to students, again, that just traditionally don't have that access.
And we're offering 18 different tracks. So think of all the tech roles, whether it's a farm tech, if it's a surge tech, also what we call allied adjacent nursing assistant, LVN, also mental health frontline roles like community health worker, peer support specialist, substance abuse. And any of those, like if it's a community or a hospital association or a rural health association, we can be doing cohorts by having individuals together from different institutions coming together to support that as well. And I know Carl's talking about a couple of different tracks, but it could happen with any of the tech roles as well. And so we've seen that, bringing farm techs together, or we talked about medical assisting, but it's also in any of the areas that you have a shortage. It can be, smaller numbers, but if you're trying to really move forward, we can do cohorts as well. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think kind of helping create those clear pathways with all of those options. There's a whole portfolio that, Futuro offers, and we offer some and different opportunities, but, the healthcare institution can really be the hero in this problem. They can really step up to the plate, make the ownership of the education part of their offerings to their employee base. And when you bring that embedded learning center and opportunity to your employees, it really changes the game inside your facility.
And, we're a nonprofit that's really, our mission, again, is all about, serving the community, helping grow the Allied Health Network, and just really the health and wealth of the community. And so for us, it's deeply seated in every individual that works at Futura Health. Our mission is really important. We want to help people succeed at the same time, fill critical shortages, and be a really good business partner and have quality educators along the way with us. So I would really incent you to be looking at what can you do that's also in addition to what you're currently doing. I mean, what you're currently doing, you probably need to continue, but I've been seeing gaps across the country with the short, everyone's short, staffed right now, that they're kind of putting some of the workforce planning on hold, which makes that, challenge bigger every single month. And so if we can get ahead of that game by starting to do both, doing your regular recruitment, but also like doing an analysis of your area, who's in your community, who's in your institution, how can we create pathways for individuals to succeed? How can we bring in new talent that you haven't thought of, that are work ready and excited to be there? So I think it's just a win-win is what we've seen. And it's like I said, the work that I've been passionate about my whole career. And Futura Health has, like I said, changed the lives of well over 12,000 graduates, and we've helped over 16,000 people right now get the education to move into their first or next role. And we're in 10 different states and growing. We can move to any state. Like I said, Carl mentioned it too, we want to offer medical assistant in 50 states, but we also are available to work within any state or any employer group because our magic and our programs are scalable, and they've been tested, and we've made sure that we listen to employers, we've listened to our scholars, we've listened to our ed providers and others, and want to work within your ecosystem to really help you solve those talent challenges. So we can open it up for questions anytime. We want to share one of our stories, and there's many, many stories on our Futura Health graduates, and the testimonials that we've shared in the past go both from the employer of how our scholars are differentiated from others that come to work, and also how it's changed the lives of our scholars when they are able to obtain this education and get a good job. So we're gonna open it up. We're gonna share a video and then also open it up for questions. So we're going to have the video run.
I didn't really have any plan for work when I got out of high school. I immediately went to community college and just kind of took whatever general education classes I needed to. I found that I actually really enjoyed like anatomy and physiology. I started taking like the pre-nursing requisite classes because I thought it was kind of adventurous. When you apply for nursing school, just getting into those programs can be difficult. They're very costly. A lot of people work full-time or have families they have to support, and it can be difficult to even get trained to get a job in healthcare when you have all of that other stuff going on.
When I got out of high school, this was back in 2017, I was actually working at a ramen shop. It was great for like just developing my speed of work, developing my confidence with, dealing with so many different people. My mom, being in the medical field already, being in that type of environment, the more I heard about it, the more, I really want to kind of engage with that as well. There was a day where my mom, let me know like, hey, there's this program, which was for Toro Health. It's a nonprofit organization. It assists people in becoming, medical assistants and, LVNs.
There's so many people that can get into the healthcare field through this program. In the medical field, anybody can be anything, and you're helping humanity.
When I applied to the program, I got in. From there, they let me know that you had a scholarship, you're going in there free, you don't have to pay anything. For me, it felt like, a whole load was lifted off my head because in any of these programs, whether it being a medical assisting program, a nursing program, the first thing that's going to come to mind is how much is this going to cost? Being in this type of program was very, relieving, at least that I didn't have to pay for anything. But of course, I still had to put in the work and everything that was necessary for me to get to where I needed to be at the end of the day.
If you need anything else, let me know. I'll come over.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you, Amber.
Yeah, no worries.
Appreciate it.
I have always kind of liked the idea of like exciting jobs. When my mom's friend recommended Fitzgerald Health, I thought it was a great opportunity, and I was able through them to get started in my career in healthcare.
Hey, Karina. Hi, good morning. Ready to start your shift?
I found out a few weeks after I applied that I was accepted into the program, and that was super exciting for me. They have you take like a patient care class, and it's all online, but it teaches you about communication and having empathy and different skills that you need just to be able to successfully communicate with patients and work in healthcare. I learned CPR, how to do a medical assessment, how to do a trauma assessment, and I'm still learning about new things. Because of like the great instructors I had, I ended up going and applying for an EMT job like as soon as I was finished with the class.
Hey, my name's Justice. I'm going to be the medical assistant today. So right now, I'm just going to go ahead and take some vital signs.
I did become a medical assistant. Right now, I'm doing great. I'm working at a major hospital, somewhere that I never thought I'd end up being. I'm around a lot of different, not just doctors, but a lot of different people that work in labs, physicians, different, PAs, medical assistants, different types of people. Like, I'm never going to get bored, never going to, just be sitting there doing nothing. And that's what, excites me at least. When I first got that acceptance letter to being in that hospital, it was really like a huge, new chapter in my life, I could say.
I work usually 3 days a week, and then I'm also currently enrolled in an EKG course, and that's all online. I'm doing it based off of my schedule, and so it allows for a lot of flexibility for me to work during the week and go to my other classes.
helping people every single day. It's really important to me. It's really great, being around these people, helping them in any type of matter.
I'm still at the very beginning of my career. I think that my dream job is being a flight nurse on a helicopter. I think that it seems really interesting, and it kind of combines getting excitement and also the patient care part. It does excite me a lot just to think about what's ahead of me.
My mom's always been proud of, everything I've done. It's always give her that little smile on her face,
This brought you back to where you were supposed to be. Because today, look at who you are, look at what you're doing, and I'm glad that you did that. So I'm a proud mama. Oh, you know that.
Yeah, I know.
These are just a couple stories, but there's thousands of those stories of when you invest in people, it matters and it changes their lives. And you can see on some of the upcoming slides, there's just some quotes from other scholars as well. And we have the same with employers that are very grateful and excited to partner along the way to solve their workforce challenges. So we're opening it up for questions next.
Great. Thank you so much. I'm so glad you showed that video. Super impactful to see those stories firsthand. Now, I'd like to get into the first question from our audience, which kind of relates to something that came up a few times, talking about making sure these college graduates are work ready. An audience member is asking, how do these programs ensure that new graduates align with my culture in specific?
So Carl and I can tag team, but as I said, any scholar that comes to Futura Health, we spend 6 weeks before they go into technical training and ground them in the human touch skills that I had mentioned. And so that's making sure that they're aware, they've got that emotional intelligence, that teamwork. And if there's, it could be that if there's an employer or a certain consortium, we could customize and incorporate some of your information or some of your leaders into some of that kind of initial onboarding. Right now, we're doing it broadly with the skills that we know you need to have patient satisfaction, as well as just good, solid employees with emotional intelligence. The next step is if anyone has any deficiency in English, we provide ELL. Again, the human touch healthcare and the ELL are before they go into their technical training. And we also have a coach assigned to them from day one. So there's a coach working with them along the way on any questions. And they would also have, I'll let Carlos talk in a second here, but they would have their faculty. And then some of our courses are also taught by clinicians that have worked in the field to make sure that they're aligned. And what's really helpful too is just ensuring that we have really good clinical partners for that experiential learning. And that also helps along the way. What I've been saying with some of the employers is, we can create this journey on a red carpet. We can be looking at interactions along the way between that organization, leaders, recruiters, and others, mentors on the floor along the way during this journey. It doesn't have to be just at the end, and it doesn't have to necessarily start even at the externship. It can be before, but right now, most of the journeys are, coaches assigned from the day one, human touch healthcare for 6 weeks. If they need ELL, going into that program, getting coaching along the whole journey, right through job placement. And then Carl would also his team would also be providing that support. And then when I say work ready, we have the ability to customize and develop education programs by design. So if you have, let's say you need emergency room workers, we can put an EMT program together with a phlebotomy program, with a EKG program, and then they would have all the essential functions as well to get more work ready. So, and then customizing, if you have a nursing assistant that works in long-term care and they need to pass medication, we can add a trained medication aide. So we try to listen to what you need. And again, your involvement with us also reduces that onboarding, and also, make sure that that alignment is there. But we invest heavily in the scholar. And Carl, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, completely. And just the prep that you guys provide, the scholars coming to us, helps out a ton. When you look at the ELL support and the human touch healthcare, when you're looking at 48% of the students being bilingual in an all English curriculum, it speaks volumes to what you guys can do for support alongside of our team as well. When we're looking at over 90, 92% retention rates with our MA programs, and also like aligning with your culture with these programs. We adapt our curriculum as the educational provider to our partner needs. Make sure they're work ready. Again, your example of emergency room, if there's something in acute care that you're seeing more that you're really going to have these graduates work on that unit for, we incorporate that directly into our curriculum. We have a whole team of instructional designers that do a really fantastic job with that. And our faculty support team that then educates our faculty to then provide it to the students. So a lot of dedicated support and internal resources that both of our organizations have. And for us at Unitech, like myself, I'm Director of Partnership Success. I work directly with our partners, and we listen to your needs. We're flexible. We meet you where you're at. We have another partner that wants to incorporate Gene Watson's theory of human caring into their organization, and they have, but they haven't really done it to the extent they would like to. So we've adapted our student LPN curriculum to incorporate the theory of caring and Caritas principles throughout. And then we're also creating like a leadership program for their staff and their leadership team. So not only is it going to come out in your graduates, but your staff on the floors and your leadership teams will start kind of bleeding that Caritas piece into their team meetings, into their other staff, and then eventually to the patients that they're serving. So, and that's just one example of how we can kind of help tailor our curriculum and our support to meet the culture of your organization.
And I would say the same thing. We are constantly in conversation with employers, and we are partnering with accredited institutions that looking at success rates of graduates. Are they getting the education and training they need to pass that certification? And so the other part I'll add is, and this is really exciting, just recently we have developed what we call a platform that allows communication between us as Futura Health, the scholar, and the employer. So you could be seeing the journey of the scholar, where they're at, if they're in human touch healthcare, if they started the technical training. You can do outbound messaging to reach our scholars. We could create red carpet events. And so this is a way to communicate. And then it's also a way, in addition to like having a work meeting, you could be putting in your wish list what you need us to consider for the next time. And so we are always evolving. Like I said, we have 18 different programs, and we are constantly adding customization at the beginning or the end to make sure that our scholars are successful and they are that work-ready scholar, and that they're ready to continue to learn and develop.
That's great. Thank you so much. I think that's a great point, especially for giving these people not what they need just to succeed right off the bat, but what Laura said about that ongoing experiential learning, and then Carl was being flexible, really meeting them where they're at, adapting with them. Another question I'd like to ask is, can either of you comment on what you're seeing in the behavioral health space in specific? Are there any unique dynamics here versus other allied health?
Right now, so I have that background from previous roles, as well as working with all levels of mental health providers. So Futura Health is serving that front line. What we're seeing is the world is a stressful place right now. And many communities are trying to prepare people to be there, whether it's what's going on around the country, just the uncertainty. And so we have seen more and more requests for community health workers. It could be a community health worker that could be aligned with your front desk or a medical assistant or a nursing assistant. So they're serving populations in kind of that liaison role and advice. We also offer peer support specialist training, which again is helping people with that lived experience. That's been critical. And then substance abuse. These pathways are being reviewed right now for credit for prior learning as well. So it's a gateway into an entry-level mental behavioral health role that could go on for a licensed role in the future. And so having more people that are there to respond and prepared, we've seen as just critical with the mental health field right now. And just events, and whether they're environmental or concerns of what's going on right now in different communities, there's a lot of anxiety going on. And so again, these frontline workers play a key role. And then allowing, your nursing and your professional staff and social workers to do their roles, but it's a teamwork.
Yeah, I agree. I think from an educational perspective, it's a multidisciplinary approach. When you're working with all of these different programs and educating your students, it's hard to, I think, focus on one area so specifically when you could go to, a behavioral health clinic. It's much different than going to another outpatient clinic or another setting. But to your point, Laura, I think that we are seeing some of these trends across all areas of our country and all settings. So I think in our curriculum, we are preparing students to have exposure and build a good, I think like foundation to be able to work with clients of different backgrounds and needs. But then again, prep them with the human touch healthcare, prep them with other, I think, professional kind of communication skills and working with the client directly and meeting them where they're at. And then they'll be job ready essentially. So they will have that orientation time and be job ready once they do settle into their career.
I see that there was a question asked about preceptor shortage and what we're doing about it. So one of the offerings we're preparing is preceptor training to really help that clinical staff know how to be a good preceptor, because sometimes organizations, health systems will feel like they don't have enough preceptors to say yes to clinical learning, and partly because it's not part of a regular education track. When someone goes for technical training, they probably didn't learn how to be a preceptor. And so we are offering that as well to make sure there's success for the organization, success and confidence for that preceptor, and then also the scholars have someone that's really going to help grow and mentor them. So that's just another offering that we can do, and it's really important that you have good preceptors.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're 100% correct. There's always a shortage. So when you have a shortage of workers, you have a shortage of preceptors. It's kind of, again, trying to solve this problem. And for us at Unitech too, we have the Center for Excellence in Teaching. So all of our instructors have access to this. So very similar to what Futuro provides, but making sure we have the best of the best and give them the tools. So you can bring in a great clinician without any experience and give them the tools to be successful with those student groups. One other thing we're doing in the hospital setting with some of our partners, it's called like retaining through teaching. So it's providing hospital staff the ability to step away from the bedside for a portion of their FTE to come and be a clinical preceptor, or to come and teach a skills lab or a simulation lab, but then still have that full-time job and benefits at the institution. They're now working at the bedside and teaching it as well. And it kind of gives them that break and change of pace in their day to help prevent some of that burnout long-term too.
And I know we're coming to a close, but we're more than happy to have meetings with any of you, answer more questions. This is so important about investing in people and filling your critical shortages that doesn't stop here. We're here to partner with you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Laura and Carl, for such an excellent presentation, such great mission, inspiring stories, as well as thank you to Unitech Learning for sponsoring today's webinar. Thank you to our audience for such insightful questions, which they will be happy to continue at a later date. So thank you all for joining us today, and we hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.